Hello everybody, Gisele Grenier here. So in this video lesson, we're going to learn whether it's worth buying or DIYing raw umber. Now I'm going to tell you right now, making up raw umber is not one of my favorite things to do because it's so dull. I would rather just take black and add a bit of green and white and be done with it, but we're going to go a little bit further than that. So is it worth buying raw umber? Well, if you do a lot of portrait painting and you want to work like in an old style, from to do like a monochrome with oil overlays and that, yeah, raw umber, just buy it. Don't bother trying to make it. But for the experience of color mixing, to see how you can work with it, then yeah, you can make up your own raw umber. It'll last you a long time. Okay, I still have the old tube with the bottle style of raw umber. I still have the old tube because that's because I don't use it a lot. But it's something that's, you know, nice to have when you need it. It's in my extended palette, which we're going to cover off in a future video. So to save some time, I put raw umber there. So when we're looking at color matching something, we're going to ask ourselves those darn questions again. What color do we see? We see brown. Go to the palette. What browns do we have? Well, I have a burnt umber, I have a burnt sienna, and raw sienna. So let's stick with burnt sienna and burnt umber. Is it lighter or darker than burnt sienna and burnt umber? Well, it's darker. Is it brighter or duller? It's duller. And where does it sit in the color wheel? Right now, at this very moment, it leans towards blue, blue-green. So when I say blue, blue-green, I've started doing that. People go, what are you doing? Blue, blue-green means blue, blue-green, slightly more on the blue side. If I were to say if I was to say green, blue-green, it's still a blue-green, but leans more to the green side. Okay, so blue, blue-green would be here. Green, blue-green would be here. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, so let's start off with burnt sienna. And I may not need to use all these colors. I have no idea. So if we have a reddish brown here, reddish orange brown, we need to make it a lot darker. Well, obviously I'm not going to use raw sienna for that. I could use burnt umber for that, but burnt sienna shifts towards red. Burnt umber shifts towards red. Raw umber shifts towards blue, blue-green. What do we do? Well, let's see. If we were to darken this up with burnt umber, is it dark enough? No. Can you see the red in it? I'm not even going to bother with the white because you should be able to see that. So let's go to more burnt umber. And I'm not going to use black in this. Okay, I'm not going to use black. No, still not dark enough. If we add another batch of burnt umber, it gets to the point where all we're doing is using burnt umber. So that's not too bad, but I can definitely see this is much brighter. Well, what can we do to make that darker as well and maybe knock that down to a bit more green? Well, to get it darker, we've got it pretty well. Let's go with a little bit of ultramarine blue in there. A bit more than that. Ooh, okay. Ultramarine blue is a blue that leans towards what? Let's get some white in there. Oh, please don't tell me I did it right the first time. What's the point of the lesson then? If I don't make mistakes. Well, okay. You can see, okay, it's not a pure match. Okay, so it's not a pure match. You can see the difference here. It's not a pure match. Here we go. See the slight difference there? Let's add a little bit more white to bring the value down a bit more. That's what we want to do. We want to try to match the value first. It's easy. I found that it's easier for you guys to compare when it's the right value. So it's the right lightness. Maybe a bit much. So you can still see a bit more towards green, a bit more towards violet because of the ultramarine blue. So what can we do? Ha! Ultramarine blue, what can we do? Let's take a speck of green. I don't know if that's going to be too much or not enough. I don't know. It's hard to see. Let's try that. Oh, it's too much water in my brush. Oh my goodness. So we just want to shift it a little bit. Add some white. Okay. Let me actually put it down here. That might be a little too light. Don't forget, acrylics dry darker. So don't try to do the perfect match while the paint is wet. Let it dry and then adjust. I see, now I'm looking, now the monitor I'm looking at and looking here, to me, right now at this moment, this is a little bit greener still. I still need to go a little bit greener. I'm going to go right into the mix here. We have the intensity pretty well. So you see how much work is involved in this? Okay, we'll let that dry a little bit more. I think that's probably about as close as we're going to get. So we didn't need the raw sienna. So it took burnt umber, burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, and phthalo green blue. Is it worth it? Hell no. Oops, sorry. If you have young ones, please cover your ears. Heck no, it's not worth making it. That's why it's probably one of my least favorite mixes. In saying that, look at all the beautiful mixes that we got here. And then you can add the white to see the underlying color. And then, you know, this is paint you don't have to buy. So this is a really good exercise here if you're into painting animals. So it's not a loss on that. So is it worth buying? Yes. Is it worth making up? I don't think it's worth making up color mixing raw umber from the standpoint of how long it takes if you want an exact match. If you want an exact match, just buy raw umber if you're going to be using it a lot. If you're not going to be using it a lot, then yeah, make it up yourself because you already know. Just go with the burnt umber. I could probably even, you know what? Let's try something. Burnt umber, straight ultramarine blue. I'm going to see if I can eliminate burnt sienna. Because the burnt sienna really shifted it red. Let's see. Eliminating burnt sienna. Let's see if that made a difference. Because myself, it's not worth it. Trying to get the right. See, it's still too red. I still see red in there. Okay. So we have to knock it down with a little bit of purple, a little bit of green. And this may, oh, this one's not too bad. Might be a bit too much green. It's not too bad, it's a little dark. Too light now. So I don't remember what I did here. Well, you know what? It shouldn't matter. It's going to be based on what colors you have. So yeah, so eliminating burnt sienna, it made it worse. So my mixture of having burnt umber, burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, and phthalo green blue was the way that's the closest color right here. Again, it's up to you depending on how much you're going to use it, for what you want to use it for. Color mixing from the standpoint of getting something dull, like a dull, dark brown is nice for the experience. with how often I use raw umber, I use it more just for underpainting a canvas. I'd do the mixes myself. But if I had to do the underpainting of the canvases, if I didn't have raw umber to make up the colors myself, oh, be a nightmare because it's so much mixing and to get something precise. But it's up to you whether you want to buy or DIY it. But now you at least know that you can do something with burnt umber, burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, and phthalo green blue. If you don't have it, and if you really like the mixes that you can get with it, then by all means go ahead. It's an inexpensive pigment. It's not a lot of money to buy. So if you're going to buy it, it'll last you a long time. Alrighty, so I want to see your color chart on how you make up your own raw umber. If you're watching this on YouTube, go to the description below to click the link to go to the community. If you're a member, fine. If not, you'll have to join. I do approvals once a day. Everything is happening over there. Post your charts as well as the actual paints that you use, the brands, and like rough formulas if you have it, on how you got your own raw umber, because that way if somebody's, a beginner is also, watching and not quite sure how to make it, then they can take your advice if they're using the same paint. So post your chart. Looking forward to seeing those. And any aha moment that you had while mixing this, like while mixing the colors to arrive to your mixing color, is there a particular color along the way that you really liked that you think would be nice to use on something else? Right? Because all these colors here are beautiful to use for a monochrome underpainting. Absolutely beautiful. Then you glaze color on top of that, which is a lesson we're going to be doing in maybe a couple of months. And this is a request from Michael Ann about a color mixing series demonstration on color glazing, which is a really wonderful technique to use for painting. Alrighty, finish this one now. Look at my chart here. The next lesson is going to be a raw umber hue string. We've already done a few charts on that, but this one here, we're going to use all the colors that we have in our palette right now, and we're going to create a hue string to see what we get. Alrighty, so I'm going to clean up and get ready for that lesson. Until I see you then, stay inspired.